Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Detour Live. I'm joined as always by four-time National Road Champion Johnny Trevorrow, Olympic gold medalist Scotty McGrory. Fellas, there's a lot to unpack. We mentioned, Scotty, early in this Giro episodes about the protest stage, a very famous stage. When we lapped it up and we had a few beers at the finish, it happened again. It looks like not much changes at the Giro, mate.
Not much. So that was 2009 protest in the Milan stage because it was just so dangerous. There were still cars on the course. They hadn't cleared the course for the race. So the guys took it easy, gave us a little bit of extra time to throw down a few more bevies, which just made those post-race interviews far more interesting and embarrassing for me. But this has been coming for a long time, and there's been a lot of criticism. For those of you that don't know what happened, riders did turn up very early for the start of what was to be a 260-odd kilometre stage. They all knew about this. They knew it was coming, but the transfers leading up to it over the last couple of days, the long time spent in the bus, then it rained, and some of people have accused the riders of being soft because, well, they just didn't want to race for a long time in the rain, which that may have added to it, but it wasn't really all about that. So the riders cracked the sads, they cracked the shits and said, we're not going out. And then they drove up the road along the course. Reluctantly, the race organisers allowed them to shorten the stage and end up being 130 odd Ks, flat chat, breakaway, interesting sort of stage result, I guess, considering what they would have had, which would have been an incredibly long and boring flat stage in the rain. But it creates a lot of debate. We still had a result. It was only 130 odd Ks. So there were two teams that would be very disappointed in this, and that's Ineos and Bahrain McLaren, because they have two riders that they want the peloton and in particular Sunweb to get more and more fatigued heading into the final two stages. So they would have wanted to race the full distance. Pretty much everybody else didn't want to.
Well, we're going to discuss all of this in a lot of detail throughout the show. We've got Rob Arnold from Ride Magazine coming on, but if our first guest is ready, is in quarantine in WA, do you want to give us a bit of an intro, mate?
Yes, Brenton Jones, one of our top pros over the years, Australian Criterium champion just a couple of years ago, winner of the famous Bay Crits, of course. So, and his mum works a lot with me. She actually delivers the Bay Crits these days. But Brenton's been in Britain riding for DHB Canyon, but of course, they haven't been able to race. There'd been no racing in Britain, so he's been stuck over there. He finally managed to get home, so we'll hear from him. Brenton Jones, welcome onto the show, mate. G'day, bud.
Day 14 here, look out.
How are you holding up, mate? How many days into quarantine are you?
Yeah, day three here, Dan. So out of 14, we've got a few to go, 11 more nights. But just getting through. Yesterday was a tough day for me, kind of a bit restless and jet lagged, but yesterday and last night I had a good sleep, so today I'm feeling a lot better. But I think it's Lucy's turn today. She had a restful night's sleep, so she's not feeling too good and can't join us today.
Yeah, so I was going to talk to Lucy because she's a bit of a character, but it sounds like she's a bit soft, with a headache and can't come on, but that's fine. We'll forgive her. But look, it's been an amazing year, so take us a bit through it. I mean, you're over there, you're about to have what you could hope would be a breakout year in racing with a new team, but that never happened.
No, unfortunately it didn't. We got over there, and after a couple of weeks, I was already 2 races in. The first race in Belgium, I can't remember that name, and the second one was in Holland, the Ruckfon Classic. At 1.2, but it's a big race and got a good history as well with a winning list and riders who won that race have gone on to do bigger and better things. The winner this year was David Decker. He's just signed with Lotto Jumbo, and he bet me by half a wheel over a 200-kilometre race. So I was very close, and the form was really progressing well. And I was looking forward to another strong calendar of European races in the following month to come. And that got cut short, unfortunately. And then we chose to stay in Europe and stay in the UK. We were safe there. We were happy. We were healthy. We got family there. And we weren't impacted by too many things there. Although the lockdown was bad, we were still able to get outside and I could train every day. And unfortunately, no races came due to the team's insurance and the British having a restriction and 14-day quarantine period for travelling to Europe. So the team's insurance didn't cover our health when we went to these races, and the team manager, Tim, made the call to not send us seeing some of these things that you saw with Jakobsen. If that had happened to one of us, then we would have been in a real trouble coming back home to UK and not having insurance. So the team couldn't race the rest of the year, which is really unfortunate.
How were you holding up, mate? You put a lot on the line for this pro cycling journey, and as you said, you're in good form, and you simply couldn't race. I mean, it's obviously tough for a lot of people, but how'd you hold up personally?
Yeah, I think did okay. Obviously, my wife Lucy would to support me there as well. Fantastic. We made a lot of friends, and like I said, we had family there too that helped us along that journey in the last few months. It's something that's going to be a good story to tell the grandkids in the future. That's for sure, because it's a crazy year for everyone. But I think, personally as well, to have an impact like that into my career. I'm not sure what's going to happen next year. I'm not sure. I'm open to possibilities, and I want to keep racing. I don't want to finish like this, but it's been a tough year. But like I said, the friends and family, everyone who supported us this year in the UK really helped us get through, and we're lucky to have them.
And take us. You're right, mate.
So, just saying, okay, you haven't been able to race, but you're watching all this racing that has been going on. Obviously, the biggest races, the classics and the Grand Tours have been underway. A lot of countries haven't been able to put on any of the smaller races, though. Has it been somewhat frustrating that there is some racing on, but you're on a part of the world that I guess COVID really has been hit, has been hit very badly by COVID?
Yeah, for sure, Scott. I think that's been a massive influence as well, and makes it even more harder to see these bigger races go ahead. And obviously, our team's not going to line up in the Tour de France. But to see these other smaller races go ahead, some of which we were actually going to do. You put me on the spot here with the names of them again, but they were 1.1 Point Pro races we were going to do. The team's got a great calendar in Belgium and in Holland, and these races did go ahead, and we were not on the start list. And that was even more painful, I think, to see those ones not go ahead, because they would have been really, really big opportunities for us.
Take us through the process of even getting back to Australia. I believe that was a headache.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first flight we had was on Qantas. We booked it December last year. We were due to come home in September 21, 3 days before my brother Jared and his wife Claire's first child's first birthday. So we missed Archer's first birthday on the 24th. And we got postponed as well. I was going to already stay longer and miss that kind of month because of the racing season. As you've seen, it's been pushed back. I was already going to stay maybe until October anyway. Maybe happy for Lucy to go home before me. And then this whole quarantine eventuated as well. So we chose to come home together and stick it out together. Obviously now no races happen. So we had a flight on October 28th into Brisbane on Etihad. That got cancelled too. These are both economy tickets, standard ticket for most Australian citizen. And Lucy's since chosen to accept a very nice career opportunity, which she can update everyone in the future about. And we need to come back for her as well for that, as I did to enjoy the summer with my family too, in the off season, which I always do. So we decided to purchase a business class flight. We're very fortunate enough to have taken that and fortunate enough to have the funds and support to make that happen. And we came back into Perth, where we are right now in quarantine. So that was a last minute decision, and we booked that flight literally 3 weeks ago.
I was going to say that, and they tell me that your bike didn't come through the journey quite as well as you did. I heard there's a few problems with the baggage handlers, mate.
I know what's to go there, John. I think I'm chasing that up with the insurance, and hopefully I can get something through there. The team just gave me, it was a brand new bike as well. They palmed off to me, and in the contract it was to keep my race bike, and thankfully, or however fortunate enough you can see that situation being, I didn't get to race, but I've got a brand new bike, so that's a win. But it's come back with a few marks on it, and I'll chase up the insurance on that. And I'm lucky to have my brother Jared working for Canyon Australia, so it's making the interaction there a bit easier. And I think he sent me a part I did lose. I haven't been on my bike yet in quarantine. I've lost a seat clamp, so I think if Australia Post is out there, come and get it to me, please.
Well, you might get the part, or you might get a $3,000 watch in the mail. Who knows? One of those things from Australia Post. But and we were talking to Matty Pointer yesterday, and he said he's dropped off the home trainer for you to whack the bike onto. So hopefully that's all going the next day or so, mate.
Yeah, cheers to Matty for that as well. He dropped it off yesterday, and Lucy messaged me when Matt Pointer messaged Lucy told me yesterday when Matt Pointer messaged late in the night, and Lucy said, "Did you not thank him yet?" And I said, "Oh, I've completely forgot," and I didn't realise I had an afternoon nap for about an hour. Woke up, drowsy, everything, and Lucy was playing music. I opened the curtains. I still didn't wake up, and I obviously just saw his message and didn't reply. So sorry about that, Matt. But thanks for the trainer.
Just while you're in quarantine, poses the question. So Tour de France race director in Christian Prudhomme tested positive at the first rest day of the tour and had to do 8 days in quarantine before he's allowed to come back to the race. But everyone's still doing 14 days when they come back into Australia. So does anyone understand why Prudhomme only had to do 8 and while you still have to do 14?
Well, I got no idea, and if anyone wants to update me on that would be fantastic. Don't get me started on this whole thing. I think I was actually just talking to Harry Sweeney on Instagram literally 5 minutes ago, and he said, "Bro, that's insane. Like, he's actually in quarantine in Brisbane, right? Doing the 14 days as well, which is fine. But they're allowed to go outside for 1 hour. He's been doing some runs in the car park there. And here in Perth, literally, we are not allowed out of this room to get fresh air. Not allowed to go for walks outside, even if it's in a car park. And that's not great. That should be illegal. And I think we were joking.
We're from Victoria, mate. You stay in your room. There's school your jets there, son.
I'm negative.
Yeah,
well, Simon Gerrans is in. It's interesting with all the riders coming back now. So Simon's a former rider, but he's in quarantine up in Brisbane, and on his social media, he was bragging about the fact that he was actually allowed onto the balcony, so he at least gets some sunshine, some fresh air. I think you got Shannon Malseed, former Australian road champion. She's in quarantine in Perth at the moment as well, just going through.
Yeah, for sure. So it's quite difficult, but watch this space.
So what's the plans now, mate? Once you get out, obviously spend some quality time with the family and that, but is there any ideas on how next year's going to look?
Yeah, not too sure. Like I said, who knows? I think Lucy's going to be following her career goals in Melbourne and following her future there. And so if I do head back to Europe, it's going to be for probably a 6-month stint or something like that next year. The team want to have me back. They've got a great calendar as well. Finishing off with races like Tour of Britain next year, and a whole host of races in Europe as well. These 1.1s and 1 pros I missed out this year, so I want to go back and do that. And if Canyon's the only team that are going to come up with a contract for next year, then I'm going to have to consider going back there and maybe doing that. But like I said, if another job or role comes up in Australia, that's too good to refuse, and that's the way it's going to go. But undecided yet. I want to keep racing.
Good stuff.
Yeah, just talking about Lucy, are you not allowed to say what her great new role is? Because we do know, and it's been out there, I think.
Couldn't you join those dots, Iffy? Couldn't you join them? They're pretty easy, like they were right there. You could
but okay. Anyway, whatever. But she's also been working for Sunweb over the last few months, doing in charge of their social media up until just you left a few days ago. That must have been at least kept you guys in feeling like you're a part of the European season. Yeah,
for sure. It's been great for her. I think as any other freelance journalist and freelance media person overseas, they've suffered a lot this year. She's lost a lot of work. She was going to work at Roland Garros, couldn't do that. Was going to work at maybe the women's Giro and the other races there in Europe as well for Ant McCrossan and the guys overseas in the UK. But she had lots of opportunity, and unfortunately Sunweb came through to give us some work in this past month, which has been fantastic. She was working on the Volta, the Giro as well, and covering some of the classics, including Flanders. So for her to cover those races, write their media reports, do the tweeting and the Instagrams for Sunweb was an amazing opportunity, and she's really established a great connection there.
I've been very impressed with Sunweb this year. Just about the most exciting team, actually, right through all of the races. They've been young, aggressive, and coming up with some fantastic race plans each time. So I've been loving them, and I reckon they'll take out this Giro. It's going to be close, but I reckon Cullen will probably end up winning it on Sunday. So we'll debate all that shortly, I guess.
Be interesting.
How do you keep fit? What do you have to do, Brenton? Well, obviously the season's been heavily compromised, so you wouldn't have been racing, so your fitness levels wouldn't be great, I would imagine. But what do you do now in the hotel room?
In the hotel room, so daily home gym and exercise. I'm a qualified personal trainer. Had that for a few years now, so I kind of am making a few sessions for Lucy and I to do. I think today we were going to do the 10,000 step challenge, and we'll walk around our room for as long as we can until we popped up 10,000 steps. So I'll let you know how that one goes. I haven't started too well, as I said. Lucy had a bad night's sleep, so it's already 9:30 here in Perth, and we haven't started the step challenge yet. So we could be going fairly late into the evening, but the AFL Grand Final and Cox Plate's on today, so that will get us through. But yeah, just a few home gym exercises, keep up my core as much as possible, and any other little bodyweight exercises like that. As I said, my bikes get to be fully made up. When I get this clamp, I'll jump on the turbo and do an hour or two a day.
Hey, what floor in the hotel are you on?
Floor 21. So let's say
people on four. Right, so if people on 420 are probably not too happy about this 10,000 step challenge every day.
No, the people on 420 just be very don't go to sleep in the next few hours. Let's put it that way.
So Brenton, what part of England were you living?
In beautiful part in the Peak District, East Cheshire, where we were, in a small town called Disley. Beautiful little village there. We're near some famous climbs. When it's past there, Tour of Britain and some of the biggest races have been around there before. But Peak District is a beautiful place to train, and a lot of other professional riders living close there as well, including, I think, Alex Edmondson, when he was back staying there a bit. He spent a lot of time in the UK, and also from Lotto Trudal, if someone could help me, UK rider who won a stage of Down Under. What's his name? Matt Holmes. So it's a beautiful area to train. And
how was the COVID situation there, mate? Do you know what the cases were like in that region?
Cases were there, obviously a lot more than what we got here in Australia. But and I think Stockport and Greater Manchester were one of the highest actually in the UK. But where we were in the little pocket towards the Peak District, the zones were quite different. It was like 2 kilometres down the road. They were locked in their house, and we were able to go and exercise and do daily things. So the zones and how they're doing the locked and central locked zones at the moment in the UK is quite interesting. So like I said, the cases were pretty heavy, 5 kilometres and even 2 kilometres down the road. But where we were, the cases were, as normal, I guess, not too bad.
So when you realised you weren't going to be able to race, what else did you start looking at doing? What else did you do in that time to keep yourself occupied?
For sure. So 2 things actually, John. One, I started a university degree online, Bachelor of Business Management, which is fantastic. I think I'm really been enjoying that, learning new things and improving myself, and that's going to be something that hopefully is going to set me up in the future as well. So that's been keeping me very busy over the last 6 months. I think I started that back in April or late April. So just after lockdown started, I said, that's it, I'm going to do it. Give me something to do. I'm at home too much now, got too much time on my hands. And the other thing was an opportunity from the local bike shop, which was 200 metres from our doorstep. And I enjoyed working there, actually selling bikes. And I think, very valued my time there with guys that I could communicate with, become best friends with, and really took my mind off the racing side of things. But I was still in the bikes. I'm obviously passionate about cycling, and I was enjoying supporting and selling bikes to people that were enjoying the same passion I do.
You can get some tips from Iffy on how to con people to pay overs.
Give us some tips, John.
Come on, John. What's this con business? You've got to. It's all about honesty, mate. And it's just Brenton like me.
Yeah, you honestly overcharged.
No. The best deal. Always offer the best deal and honest service, and that's exactly what Brenton would have been, just like me.
Oh, for
before we let Brenton go, we need to do the Mitchelton. Okay. Because Brenton can add his little bit to it. This, which I think will be pretty special.
In fact, why don't we start off with some different photos? Mitchelton wines. Here we go. Look at this.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Now, Brenton, what are your memories of that, mate? Because I was lucky enough to be at that wedding on the banks of the Goulburn River at the beautiful Mitchelton Winery. So, Brenton, what are your memories of that, mate?
Special day. Look at that photo. Perfect. That's
that's flirting with danger there, mate, with the old chain ring.
We got through that. That's actually a clean chain ring on that Canyon bike there, and Lucy did manage to not get any grease on the dress. So that's fantastic. But stunning venue there. Absolutely stunning. You guys talk about it every day, I know, but Mitchelton Winery there, and Jerry Ryan, who shout out to say thanks for helping us out a bit at that wedding as well. Fantastic venue, and recommend anyone getting married to go there and look and check it out.
Yes, that's a nice little shot there of the beautiful Mitchelton Hotel, which is absolutely sensational. But yeah, we experienced the history, the beauty, and the serenity of the Goulburn Valley. There's a little shot there of the wonderful Aboriginal art gallery, which is down
$400,000 truck.
Yes, no, it's a $15,000 truck with a $400,000 paint job. That's correct.
And you can socially distance at your weddings if you need to.
Yes, well, Brenton and Lucy didn't get that far apart, but those two are going to have a running jump at each other, I guess.
I do.
One of the beautiful Mitchelton wines, the Sun. But so there is a fantastic cellar door where you can book a wine tasting. That's for the day spa where you can quiet the mind, unwind the body, rediscover your balance after a couple of reds in a sitting of peace and harmony. But it is just a wonderful venue, as Brenton just mentioned, an iconic place to go for a wedding or major function.
Bloody oath. Well said, John. Well said. Hey, Brenton, we really appreciate you coming on the show, mate. It's been a tough year, but hopefully things obviously clear up and you can get back racing sooner than later and bigger and better things in 2021, buddy.
For sure. Thanks very much, guys. Awesome to chat to you.
Good
no worries, mate.
Take it easy, Lucy.
Yeah.
See you, mate. All right, we're going to have a quick word from our sponsors, Bike Exchange, and on the back of that, we're going to be joined by Ride Magazine creator Rob Arnold. If I can find the video, there it is. Enjoy.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Thanks again to our great mates at Bike Exchange. We're now joined by Ride Magazine creator, owner, cycling journalist, entrepreneur, Rob Arnold. Rob, thanks for joining the show, mate. We were talking before about what happened overnight at the Giro with the riders protesting. Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts, particularly about the bloke who runs the show there. But before we start really getting out the old one wood, what are your thoughts, mate, on what happened overnight?
I didn't catch up too much on it. I went for a ride, and that's why I'm sitting here looking like I'm dishevelled and grubby because I got lost. And I know it was longer than I meant to be, so I haven't caught up on the news terribly much. I woke up in sort of at about, I can't remember, about 2:30, and I came down and I read some headlines, and I thought I saw a tweet from Adam Hansen saying that he'd sent a telegram. It's like, could that be right? Do people send telegrams anymore? And anyway, so I was a bit sort of confused by the whole thing, and then I thought, I'll look into it after my ride. So, guys, I got very little to offer other than to say I went out and did the 124 missing kilometres of the stage. So if that's worth anything, that was sort of I didn't quite mean to go out.
Scotty, you're across it. Bring us up to speed of what's happened overnight.
Yeah, okay. So what Adam had said is that they tried to talk to the organisers in the coming days leading up to this particular stage. And then, of course, when they woke up this morning, it was a very early start for them to get to the start of the race. It was pouring rain. So what some fans are looking at is that the guys were just a bit upset with not wanting to race a long stage in the rain. But apparently there had been attempts to get some dialogue with the race organisers about this stage, about how long it is, so deep into the race, it's not necessary. Now, behind the scenes, what I guess the fans don't recognise or understand is that the Giro, for a long time, has the reputation of having the longest transfers of all of the big races. You know, they basically they don't care where the stages are. They just make the teams drive for so many hours before and after to get to those days. You've got the super long stages. It's also has a reputation of being perhaps the hardest in terms of terrain of the 3 Grand Tours. So you put all those things together and you start to get some pretty upset riders because it's a brutal race. They're not really getting straight to the hotel every day. That adds to the fatigue. And then you throw in a stage like this at 260 kilometres with a couple of days to go. I understand the theory behind trying to have a long stage to really hurt the riders and make the last 2 stages an incredible battle of resistance and resilience of the GC guys. But this is not just the riders waking up this morning saying it's raining, we don't want to race 260 Ks. This is 5 to 6 years of built up anger and angst towards the race organisation for the transfers they have to do, the brutality of the stage, the safety discussions. You know, you think about, we've already had early in the Giro, there were so many conversations about the safety and the crashes that were happening and the helicopter flying too low and causing crashes. You don't have these conversations at the Tour de France. There's very rarely is there a conversation around the safety of the riders. It's all taken care of and all thought out ahead of the race. That hasn't been the case at the Giro, and it's all come to a head with this particular stage. So the riders protested, said, we're not going to the start line. The organisers did then make the compromise and say, well, we'll let you shorten the race, which they were reluctantly doing it. They just had to get the thing happening. They got obviously broadcast rights and situations with media and television. So they all drove further along the course and only raced the last 130 Ks. So it was a bit of a balls up, and the race organiser, or the race director, is saying that someone will pay. Now, I think he's paying for his actions over the last 5 to 6 years. It's built up to this point, and the riders have never had a strong enough voice to actually make a difference beforehand. And this is where it all falls apart in a situation like this, and it looks bad for everyone.
Yeah, so they actually started the race, did the in control section, 5 or 6K, then jumped into their buses and cars and shortened the stage by 100 and something kilometres. You know what? There's 2 sides to this. You're dead right, Scott. I mean, it is built up anger over a long time. I think tempers have gotten frayed over the last few days because of those great long transfers. The right into the end of a 3-week Grand Tour that's been very brutal. But you know what? They've known this for a while. I reckon they've tried to have some conversation with Mauro Vigni, the race director. But to do it on the start, turn up the start and say, we're not doing it, I just think it's pretty weak, actually. I mean, I agree that it's ridiculous having a 260 or 258 kilometres was the supposed length of that stage, which is a bit ridiculous. It doesn't need to be that long. 220 would have been fine. But that's what it was. And wait until the day of it to do it, I just think it looks a bit weak. It looks bad for the cycling, for the sport. But I think, with the whole COVID situation, everyone's just getting, frayed tempers, and they've just snapped, I guess. That's the way it is.
And the mistake that, the mistake that I guess Adam became the rider's spokesman as the older statesman in the peloton and one of the more articulate. I think the mistake he actually made in his Twitter statement was that he also brought in the pandemic, which in this case isn't relevant. The riders aren't wanting to have a shorter race because their immune systems are compromised in the middle of a pandemic, is what he said. They've started the bike race as professional athletes, and you had to separate that. Don't talk about the pandemic in this situation. It was completely irrelevant.
But there's a big difference between May and October, isn't there, in Italy? I know that Giro's been affected in May by snow and weather, but I've also been there in October, and I know how nasty it can get. And you looked at the Stelvio just the other day. It was, they were lucky to get up and over that mountain. And also, isn't there a regulation that got introduced after 98 that the maximum length of the stage was 225 kilometres? And then when they announced the route for the Giro, I did look into it, and there was some anomaly. They were allowed to throw in 1 or 2 stages. Scott, you know this in a bit more detail.
but you're spot on. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the women's Giro this year, the Giro Rosa, they put in a 170-kilometre stage for them. The first time they've had something so long, and a lot of the ladies had been campaigning to get longer stages for them, but it was only the one stage. And we've seen it at the Giro all the time, 240, 250, they'll throw these stages in. And that is still, I don't necessarily disagree with having those length of stages. You know, the sport is a traditional sport. It's about fatigue. It's about everybody fatiguing at whatever rate they naturally do. And it's the best and the strongest and the toughest that prevail in the end. That is part of the sport. And there was lots of comments from previous generations having a go at the riders saying that they're soft, and we used to do 300k stages and 360 and 80-kilometre stages back in the day. And those sorts of conversations are completely irrelevant as well. Like, we have moved forward. We're trying to make cycling far more entertaining, but you can go too far that way as well. I saw a comment from Mike Tomalaris. It said that he thinks that no Grand Tour should have a stage over 150 kilometres. Now, from that standpoint, from a television standpoint, yeah, it's about trying to make the stages as short as possible and entertaining, still with an endurance element. But there's a big difference from a professional rider's perspective. We know how much of a challenge it is for there's a particular breed of cyclist that consistently racing longer day after day after day, that brings the very, very best, the most talented athletes to the top. And that's why the classics, the monuments are 250 plus kilometres, because there are a lot of riders that can race up to 200 Ks and still be competitive, but there's only a very few that can actually take that next step. And that's the endurance element of cycling and the tradition of it that we have to also remember when we're having these conversations.
Yeah, I think that we've seen a pattern here, fellas. Like, we've seen a lot of post-race emotional interviews. We've seen a lot of riders openly talk about the taxing part of this season. We're into October. A lot of these riders have been gone through pay cuts, all this sort of stuff, right? So it's building to a point where they're in a mental state where they've had enough. They're not actually in a really good spot. And the thing with the Giro, right, and this is what really shits me about this organisation at times. So from my perspective is, if you try and run a race and you use bullying tactics, right, it's our way or the highway. It's a very much a muscle game at the moment, because there's this fear of ownership, stand your ground, make a stand. It's our way or the highway or whatever. Yeah, okay, you can get away with that to a certain point. But what is your product, right? Your product is teams racing each other across your race route or whatever. There has to be an element of buy-in. You have to listen to what people say for the betterment of the sport. So what shitted me off, right, is I worked my ass off to do backstage passes, right, which was all about giving value adding to the teams and to give them exposure. I was told the night before the 2016 Giro, I got put on more restrictions than you would at Olympic Games. I couldn't film at the buses. I couldn't interview my team. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't use Race Vision, couldn't do anything. I was told that the night before. And I said, well, hang on, ASO run this race. It's even bigger than yours. And they give you a 3-minute highlights package that you can use the highlights of that, put it all together. And then, yeah, there are rules. I can't use any vision, but there's rules and I'll follow them. And it's all for the betterment of, we don't get a cut of the race television broadcast or anything like that. So it's all about working together and compromise. But the Giro were flat out like, nah. So I cracked it. And that's why I did that video of like, well, this is a joke. I'm just going to recreate the races with toys just to show how stupid this is. So when we released that, Cycling Weekly did a news article and said, Orica Green Edge have the last laugh and do this video on toys. The next day, they took down, this was in 2016, in 2014, they took down 2 videos off our YouTube channel. And that was when Michael Matthews won in the pink jersey and when Peter Wedding won on stage 9. Now, don't tell me that that is not a bullying tactic to say, hey, if you've got a problem with our race and how we run it, we'll just go and do that on YouTube. Now, that's bullshit. I'm sorry, that's bullshit. If you want to run a race and you have it all in the betterment of the sport, have conversations or talk about it or like have a compromise. But instead, like that's why riders get to the point where they're sick of it. When the whole COVID thing happened, we heard day after day from Matt White that there was issues with the bubble. There was issues with the hotels. There was issue with general public mixing with it. But what does the boss do? He comes out and says, well, I think the teams need to put their hand up and there's a problem with the teams. Yeah. People are getting sick of it. And I've obviously got bias. But it's bullshit.
But you've nailed it, Dan, because that is Vegni's style. He is a dictator. I think his middle name was Mussolini. But
He's Joe
I thought
Pesci,
you were going to
mate.
say something else. Then when you said dictator, I thought you were going to say something else about him, which would have also been appropriate.
no,
Joe
but-
Pesci, and he wants to be De Niro, he wants to be Pacino, but he'll forever be Joe Pesci.
It's so easy to watch the Giro in Australia, isn't it? Like, I mean, if it wasn't
Exactly.
for the, online offerings, then there'd be absolutely nothing. I know the years that I spent doing this really convoluted procedure to get to RAI television or Rai television in my office. We had a satellite on our dish back in 2000 and 2001, and we watched it in Italian. We took an intercept signal from Eurosport that went to New Caledonia back then, and I went way out of the way to try and watch the Giro. And I guess 20 years later, I'm just sort of fed up with trying to do it like that. And I don't really want to sit around looking at my phone or the computer. I'd like to lie on the lounge and watch the television and, make that offering. And I know what SBS has gone through to try and get the Giro back on their network. And it's just been pretty much impossible. And so, like you're saying, Dan, they're making it really difficult for people who are doing really innovative, interesting, fun media that really gives insight into bike racing. What do? Shut it down. And it's not like they're giving an alternative. So what's the go? What's the point of it, if you know what I mean? They're protective for their Italian audience and their Italian audience exclusively.
And the priority for all of these events, right? Any sport, if you think that you're above free-to-air as a priority, well, you've got another thing coming, because the more people that drop off, the harder it is to get those people back. And, as you said, in Australia, not everyone can fork out money for GCN app. Not everyone just wants to watch a few highlights. They want to watch the narrative of the sport. They want to follow their teams. That should be the priority in every single territory. Scotty, you're back.
If you want to attract people to the sport, the worst thing that you can do is make it more difficult. And so surely they would realise that there's more value add for the sponsor if they can. Okay, we know that there's television rights money on offer, but that's diminishing in 2020. It's not like it was 20 years ago, 5 years ago even. There's not that willingness for people to pay for bike racing. And they get an opportunity to enhance their race, and it doesn't.
The problem was there was hope, right, for the Giro, because the guy who was running the show before Joe Pesci, he was he was actually open to chatting to the teams and having open discussions and whatever, and he got thrown under the bus. And like he was someone that everyone was like, oh wow, this is a new way of looking at this traditional race. Like he realized that it wasn't exactly what he wanted to do, but he's no longer there. It's a real shame. And
but the one thing if we take a step back, I mean, I love the Giro. It is just a beautiful race, and I love a lot of parts of being on the event, and the fans are real bike fans. It's not just a bucket list thing like the Tour de France. Okay, you get bigger crowds, but you can tell it's got some special things going for it. But if they don't take a step back and look at what they're starting to get wrong, they're going to have a big backlash against them. And it's not just about the long distance. It's about the long transfers before and after. Like, as Matty was saying the other day, they had 2.5 hours travel to the start, then 250 kilometre stage, and then another 2.5 hours in the bus afterwards. So that's a ridiculous day for the athletes.
Could you imagine playing a test match in Melbourne and putting the Australian cricket team up in Warrnambool, or 2.5 hours away to stay? They would go, oh, no, this is a disgrace. We're not going to put up with that. That happens every day.
It sounds just like some of my early detour trips on the Tour de France.
Don't get me started.
Unfortunately, we're talking about that kind of stuff up rather than the good news items out of it. Like, certainly for the Australian audience, with Ben and Jai and Rowan doing what they've done in the last few days and really attracting attention. But I think you covered that yesterday. But it is interesting just to watch the different machinations of different organisers. Like, for example, when Michael Matthews tested positive for the COVID, and then he had to drive 9 hours home on his own, there was no solution given to him. So they really, the the outside looking in would suggest that there's a real supportive atmosphere for the bike riders, even in a really extreme situation like being testing positive for COVID-19. But then, unfortunately, he basically had to manage his own hire car, and of course, someone else couldn't drive because they're trying to quarantine him. But there's all these other different elements that are coming to play in 2020, and it just makes bike racing so complicated. So I'm impressed that they've been able to get to this last weekend. I mean, to be fair, that's I didn't actually see that happening a couple of weeks ago.
No, but you're right. You're right. Though. We've got to start getting positive. Yeah.
Oh, we haven't been up until,
there's too many false positives as part of the problem. But amongst all what we've just said, it's been a bloody brilliant bike race. Other than the little protest yesterday, every day has been fantastic. It's been an absolutely brilliant bike race, as has been the whole COVID stuffed up year. I mean, the Tour de France, the classics, they've all been bloody amazing.
But I've started thinking about, especially this week when we've got the Vuelta and the Giro running concurrently. And I mean, for years I've thought that there's just been quite simply too much bike racing. And because you begin the season in January, by November you're utterly fatigued. You know, when you look at the biggest sports in the world, or the biggest money sports like the NFL, is that what gridirons or American football is called? Anyway, that season's what, 12 weeks, if that? Like, it's super abbreviated. And cycling, it's been great because it's growing around the world, and Tour Down Under is the catalyst for it beginning in January, and then there's Chinese races, the catalyst for it extending through to November, and then in the middle there's Middle East and elements that weren't part of traditional cycling. But now with COVID and the need to concertina the events that had sort of not been cancelled, it just, especially when you've got two grand tours going on at the same time, and it's already difficult. You know, I'm an independent cycling media company, and it's just actually Ride Media is pretty much just me now. And I like to cover the racing, but I don't want to be the kick it to me guy, sort of pretending as though I'm at the Giro when I'm not, or I'm at the Vuelta when I'm not. So I've sort of retracted a little bit. But now there's an opportunity for the UCI to come in and say, all right, because of COVID, we need to now start managing the calendar a little bit more pragmatically, a little bit clever, and stop making every big race that comes into the realm part of the World Tour. It just can't be. There has to be some kind of, and I don't have a solution, but I'm saying that now is the opportunity for the community and the organisers of races and teams and everyone to come together and say, okay, what are we going to do? Because the key was, most people will agree that the tour needed to run. And then the UCI was also adamant that no matter what, the Worlds had to run, and they remarkably pulled that off. But my feeling is now let's get the conversation started on not necessarily what gets culled, but what gets priority over others. Am I alone in that line of thinking?
I'll jump in there, Rob. I think the World Tour and the way it sits now with so many races in it, that really was born from the fight between the UCI and ASO, the Tour de France organisers. And I've got a spin on that with RCS and the way they conduct themselves at the moment as well. But I think that, and witnessing this in Europe and seeing the number of races that were at that second tier, so before the real UCI and ASO battle really started to wage, there was a really healthy second level scene. So the pro-continental teams and the continental level teams below that, they had a very good calendar to race in. And there were, I was living a long time in Germany, and you had a lot of races, in Germany, the tours that were quite healthy. But then the push to the very top level with World Tour, and with so many races going into that completely diluted the exposure of the second level tier. So I think underneath World Tour, the sport has very shaky foundations. So I think they really do need to reassess what the World Tour is and get away from what the battle was about. The battle was about UCI trying to get power over ASO and trying to be the governing body, which is what they are. But ASO, we know, has the most power in the sport. So you've got one race organiser that does several different events, but they are the most powerful element of the sport by far. They've got so much more power than the UCI. The UCI can kick the Tour de France out of the World Tour, and the Tour de France will still be the world's largest annual sporting event. The teams will still go there. They won't care what the UCI say. And I think RCS has seen that battle over the years, and under Mauro Veni, that they're trying to have that battle for themselves to try and give themselves more relevance, but it's as a dictatorship, and it's not coming across very well at all.
I think what scares them as well is if the riders can sort their stuff out and have a collective voice, well, then essentially they will be the most powerful voice in the sport, because if you don't have the riders, you don't have the tour. And so that'll get interesting next year, particularly if they start getting what they want, which is the one rider, one vote, and that union really gets a bit of strength. You see what happens in the NBA, you see what happens in the NFL. If you piss the athletes off, you don't have a sport. They just shut it down. And if it's COVID going on and they're like...
Last night, isn't it, where they abbreviate the stage with not much notice. But, I mean, going back to the original question with the rider strike, they knew it was going to be 258 kilometres since whenever the route was announced. So why didn't they look at amending it? And then when it was postponed to October, then they needed to take action then rather than either the day before or the day of. You
know what it's like when you get to that danger zone, stage 13 to 19 of a Grand Tour. You're so cooked. You know, jokes aren't funny anymore. The littlest thing pisses you off, and they've obviously got up in the morning. Hanson's gone, that's it. Let's make a stand. So
I think exactly that. You're right, Rob. They did know. Everyone knew before the race started. We're all saying probably ridiculous to race that far on that day. But as you've got the last 3 days of these great long transfers, and they're not getting into their hotel till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, up early in the morning, and they're just going, you know what? This is bloody ridiculous. I think that was the realisation of all that happening so quickly. But I still don't think they should have done it. I still think they had to complain about it, but still should. You can't turn up on the morning of the event and hold a gun to their heads, which they did. I disagree with that. But I would also like to say, let's talk about this Giro. We've got 2 days to go. We've got two great stages.
I think I got the right stage profile. Is this the updated one?
That's the one.
Yes, you beauty.
So it's going to be a great race today, and the tactics are going to be very, very interesting to how it's all played out.
What's going to happen, Scooter?
Well, you see that first climb. So obviously they've compromised. There was going to be, an absolute kicker, massive climb to start with to get them over into France, then the Col d'Izoard, and then that same climb that they're doing twice. So you can see that there is a difference. The first one is 30-odd kilometres. That's the easy way up to Sestriere. And once they get up to the finish, then they drop down and then come up another way. So you can see the gradient is pretty nasty, for the finish. It's not as steep or as hard as the hills that we've seen so far in the race. And the two big climbs on this stage originally would have made this one a real decider. But, and this is where I say, Ineos and Bahrain McLaren would be disappointed that yesterday's stage was shortened, because they wanted that extra fatigue. They didn't want Wilco Kelderman to have an easy day yesterday, or easier day, so we could freshen up a little bit more than he would have had he had to race 260 Ks. And the same goes for Jai Hindley. That also then transfers, if nothing changes on this stage, that also translates into the final time trial as well, with Wilco Kelderman's background in time trialling. It's been a while since he's done a really good time trial, but he was 9th in the time trial opening stage of the Tour de France, I think 2015 or 16 maybe, when Rowan Dennis won in Utrecht. So that's how fast he can be in a short time trial when he's fresh. So being allowed to freshen up a little bit more mode, not racing 260, that plays into Sunweb's hands. So Ineos and Bahrain, regardless, they're just going to have to throw everything at them.
So,
it's a completely different picture. 5 years ago, I don't think you can draw any comparison or any conclusion based off the Utrecht time trial for what's going to happen in Milan on Sunday. But just while I'm talking, is it just me, or is it possible that Jai might win the bloody race?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he can win it, because I don't think they'll finish together tonight.
But John, I keep saying this. It's 2020. You don't know what you're talking about. Anything can happen.
I can tell
Have you not learned from this?
Yes, but it won't. You're right. Those three will be racing the time trial with the gaps that are now on Sunday. That's how it'll go. And Kelderman, I believe, will win this because he beat Gegenhardt by 37 seconds in the last time trial, which was 30k. This is only half of that. There's no way Gegenhardt's going to turn that around. I don't think.
In the climb, like on the climbing stage, and there's a lot of climbing going on here. And the way Jai's climbing, what's Jai going to do if Gegenhardt goes ahead again? I can understand people questioning why didn't he wait for Kelderman the other day, but what happens if that happens again? I think Luke Roberts made the right call, and I think Hindley made the right response. But should it happen again, like when they go over the first Estrier, what happens if Kelderman's dropped then?
That of course will change everything. But I don't believe that Kelderman will. Stelvio is a different thing. You got such high altitude, the highest point of the whole race. Probably that affected him as much as anything else. Well, they haven't got that tonight. He's been handling these other climbs quite well, so I don't reckon he will be in trouble tonight. You know
what? Because it's 2020, Jai Hindley will win this Giro d'Italia. You heard it here first, folks, and we'll use that sound grab and we'll promote it. And when he does win, I can say, "Hey, mate, John doubted you. Don't talk to him. We all backed you, mate."
Well, I seriously hope that you're dead right, mate. That I look like an absolute.
Well, we need at least one person to say, and Rob's in his corner as well, to say, "Hey, you can win it."
Monday night Australian time, it was a 10-minute interview. You can see it. I put it. You can read it or listen to it. And he was so humble, and he's so typically Jai. I tried to get him to explain himself, and he was just like, "I'm just an Aussie bloke, I'm just a guy from Perth who likes to ride his bike." I was like, "Yeah, but you're third in the Giro," which he was at that point. I don't know if that's been referenced in the podcast, but so he had skin folds only 15 minutes before I spoke to him. He was 60.3 kilos. He did a 20-minute 390 watts, which was his PB on that climb when he disposed of Almeida. Me riding my bike but looking at 390 watts at 60 kilos for 20 minutes, these numbers are it's for me, my mind boggles, and I don't know if anyone else is taking that sort of concepts on board, but that when there's these three passes over really, this history, it might not be the Stelvio, but it's still a bugger of a climb, and you get that to run at it 3 times. He could really light it up, and even if you could lose a minute in the time trial or more, which is possible, I reckon that it's sort of shaping up like this young guy who likes to ride his bike could indeed win the thing.
Yeah, and that's what Cadell used to say. Remember, I just want to ride my bike, and he went on to win the tour. So
I think for that scenario to happen, it would have to. Kelderman would have to completely capitulate very early on in the stage on the first time up the climb, maybe. And they'll have a lot of their teammates with them because that first climb, while it's 30 Ks all the way up to Sestriere, it's not quite as hard as the last two. So they'll still have, Ullman and Chris Hamilton should still be there to ride support for the leader. So I just think Wilco would have to completely blow. Can you imagine to see your teammate in the pink jersey and your teammate himself actually making the attacks? Following Teo is one thing, but then he has to feel confident enough to then attack over the top of Teo, which I just don't think he did the other day. I don't think he had the confidence to Teo was going so strong in the final climb.
I don't think it was either. No, it was nothing to do with confidence, mate. He was told straight out, do not just sit on him, do not go by. And it was the right call because if he had have attacked, they would have gained more time and Kelderman mightn't have even got into the pink jersey. So it was the right call at the time. I have no doubt about that.
I don't think Teo, if Jai had attacked,
not yet.
Teo had chased him, then they wouldn't have gone on with it. So they wouldn't have given Teo any more of an advantage over Wilco. The decision to just follow and not drop back to Wilco was absolutely the correct decision, I think, at the time. In hindsight, it was the wrong decision because in hindsight, we can now look and see how much time Wilco lost on the last part of the climb up the Sestriere, how much he lost on the descent, which was only like 5 seconds on the descent. He lost all of his time, the majority of it, by far. It was about a minute in the valley when Rowan Dennis was absolutely driving it on the front. So that's where he lost most of his time. Had Jai dropped back, which I'm glad he didn't, but had he dropped back, then he would have driven it through the valley floor, and Rowan probably would have still been faster than Jai in that section, but that would have meant he would have only lost maybe 30 seconds before the final climb, and then Wilco was not so bad and going up that final climb compared to Teo, and he would be not just 15 seconds or whatever it is in front, he might have been 45 seconds still in front, and they'd be very confident that he was going to win overall.
It's exactly the fact that he was totally isolated, So,
yeah. I just think for Jai, there comes a time in every cyclist's career where you know what the right thing to do is, and you look back at your teammate and you say, stiff shit, mate, I'm off. I'm getting the jersey. And that's it. That's it.
Just like Phil Anderson did in 1981, mate. Exactly.
No one, if he wins the jersey and Cooks Kelderman, no one in the history books is going to look at that pink jersey and go, yeah, but sort of feel for Wilco. Bullshit.
I disagree with your hindsight analogy there, Scotty, in that I think hindsight shows they made exactly the right call, because at the moment they've got both things covered. If he does crack today, if Kellerman cracks today on Sestriere first time, they've still got Jai go into the pink jersey, and we'll just have to get a bigger gap. He needs another 20 or 30 seconds, I reckon, on going at half for the time trial. He'd have to really, but he's got time to do that the last couple of times up Sestriere if Kelderman cracks. So they've still got two hands to play. If he had have waited, there only would have been one hand to play.
At 45 seconds, and it was guaranteed. But yeah,
well, it's guaranteed. It's guaranteed now. If he doesn't crack, there's no way Geoghegan Hart's going to take any time out of Kelderman in the time trial on Sunday. It's not going to happen.
You'll be throwing it at him up Sestriere. The second time up there, they have to really start driving it to make the. Don't wait till the last climb.
Rounding out the top 10, I know that's really the top 3 that are in contention. Is there someone? Remember when Nibali won? What was that year? Dan, when
16.
Yeah, is there someone who could do one of those sort of just totally come from behind, like Pele Bilbao or someone like that? I don't know. I'm just wondering.
He's the best of the rest.
Nibali can produce anything too. Like, who knows? It's 2020, as we said. You can't make any bloody predictions.
Over the hill. Days are gone. That's not going to happen.
Do we want to quickly touch on the Vuelta before we wrap up?
Yeah. Sure.
This is the stage profile. I hope that's the correct one. Looks right.
That is right.
It was a great stage last night, and Sam Bennett, you might remember who one of us picked him to win the stage, and it was a great sprint. He careened him. Phillipson looked like he'd had the perfect lead out, but gee, when you see the overhead shot, the way Sam come past him, he was miles too quick. So it was a great stage last night. But today, I reckon it'll be a breakaway day myself. I think they'll let the break get up the road, and I'm not sure who it's going to be, but yeah.
Johnny, the one of the things that with Sam's win yesterday that stood out to me was he clearly the fastest at the end, but in the last 5Ks, the work that his team did to keep him basically just cruised, out of the wind and really well protected. Yeah. It was a real scramble. There was a bit of crosswind, didn't break anything up, but it was hard to be in position. And Sam was able to just sit on the wheel of Mikko Moku and just be taken all the way into the finish. They didn't do a great lead out in the last 500 metres or so. The left-hand corner that made it was really confusing, and then Sam was on his own. But in the 5Ks leading up to the actual sprint, the team did everything to just carry him to that position where he had to do it himself. And that is so often the case between these sprinters. If you have to move up, go out into the winds for any length of time in those last couple of Ks, that's enough to take sort of 2-3% off your sprint, and you've just got nothing when you have to give it all that last little push to the line. So Sam's team, as they always do, have done a great job. Not taking nothing away from Sam as well. He was definitely the fastest in the sprint.
Yep. All right, good stuff. Well, hey Rob, before we go, where can we Where's the best spot to see all your interviews and so forth for Ride Magazine?
It's not a magazine anymore. I just it's ridemedia.com.au. You can have a look there. There hasn't been a wealth of content this month, but the interview with Jai is there, front and center. And thank you. And then also just use the search. There's interviews dating back many years. But I've just been riding my bike and collecting a whole bunch of product content, to be honest. And I'm just sort of looking forward to this whole season's sort of thrown me into disarray of how you manage the coverage of racing. So it's a pleasure to be talking to you guys about bike racing. It is a really lovely thing to do. And thanks.
Great to have you on, mate. Great to have you on.
Any comments, DJ?
Comments? Oh, yeah. Comments from the punters. Sorry, mate. There's one here. Poor Scotty. Can't get a word in. Kirsty says, what's on Iffy's VHS videos on his shelf? Can you discuss that on this show, John?
What videos have we got up there? Oh, Detour de France. We've got Detour de France video, which you know very well.
Hi from Brazil, gents. Always fantastic show. That's from Nello.
Where's Brazil? Where's Brazil? Is it near Brazil?
Brazil? Yeah.
It was an S and not a Z, but anyway.
Brazil. Okay. Great call, Dan. Go, Jai. A lot of support for me, of course. Go, Dan. I think people loved it when I got the one wood out. Karen Jones, well said, Dan. And another one. Go, Dan. We had another comment. As much as the Giro is my favourite Grand Tour, it has the worst organisation behind it by far. RCS's corrupt disgrace. Now, I didn't say that. That was from someone else.
Who did you text to get him to put that comment up, Dan?
They're on the books. Here's a comment. Should we go back to double stages in a day like the 80s and prior? 2 100k stages in the mountains could be great for us fans. AJ from Chicago.
No. Oh, yeah. Well, why not make Giro 3.5 weeks like 1987? Do it.
and our old mate, Rob Eva. Great show, guys. Not much else to do today in Melbourne. Cox Plate, AFL Grand Finals on tonight. And then, this is a good one. What's the gaffer tape for? What do you get up to in that studio?
Gaffer tape and VHS videos.
Cobwebs too. Cobwebs there. Anyway, all good.
Hey, a couple of things there. So you just Rob Eva with a comment there. He's doing his accommodation out at Warburton, getting ready for the incredible mountain bike park that's going to be coming to Warburton over the next couple of years. That's going to be unbelievable. Probably the best in Australia. I think it's $11+ million they're spending out there.
Great.
So really looking forward to that one for sure.
Good stuff.
And VHS videos, Dan. Do you want to go into detail as to, because it was VHS or Betamax, and I think Betamax was better, but VHS won out in the end. Why is that? Do you know?
You know the answer. It was the porn industry. Whatever they decide, that's what they went with, and that's the truth. That's the truth.
Betamax refused to allow their product to be used in porn, wasn't it? And VHS said yes, and porn went nuts. And
I think they made the call with DVDs as well. So there's a little detour fact for you. It's got nothing to do with the bike.
What are you shaking your head for, Johnny? Shaking your head.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Rob. Thanks, fellas. We'll unpack what's going to be a drama-filled Giro stage tonight. Go, Jai. I believe he can win it. Rob believes he can win it. If he says no, we'll see.
I would love him to win it.
We all want him to win, that's for sure.
Okay. Well, hopefully we're having that discussion tomorrow night. See you then.